Intensive development of the primordial electrophysics began in 1996. The first familiarization with this knowledge gave an understanding of the paramount importance of this knowledge for humanity. However, it is not a secret that this knowledge is at the same time very dangerous, due to the fact that in the consumer society, all advanced technologies can be used for purposes which are far from being peaceful. Therefore, for a long time, this information was not made public. But scientific work on the basis of this knowledge did not stop. With time, it became clear that it is necessary to create such conditions under which progressive world scientists, who specialize not only in the field of physics, but also in the adjacent scientific directions, can unite.
We will show you all the beauty, and then we will tell you why. There you go. It's like Count Cagliostro had for time travel. But it is beautiful, you must agree. Turn on the light. You've had a look at this beauty. Now I will explain. All of this, it's our partner's overdeed. It has nothing to do with its functioning at all. Actually, when we started building it, many questions arose. And the thing itself, let's say, is constructively complex, but we managed to get it almost up to the original. The only thing is that the problem arose with the metals. Naturally, nanotechnology is barely developing at the moment, therefore we could not find a real metal that is necessary for building such a technology. So we took the most similar and proven one, ordinary aluminium. It performed well on Kozyrev mirrors. Those who are into this know. Plus it has a good constant, let's say, septon voltage, but it would be more correct to say it's phantom viscosity, that's for those who understand. Zahar understood me for sure. And why exactly this metal? It is two-layer and there is also a special material in the middle. Plus, in this design there are, well, if that is saying something, we are still shooting, so to someone who will watch, who is interested in this, 11 flat coils, or the so-called tori. So it's multifunctional, quite interesting thing. Well, let's say they made it. But our comrades who made this, our partners, we later found out that they decided to decorate it, like a bonus to us for all our patients and the like. Well, and they have probably made enough money to buy a few cars while they were doing all of this. That is why, in fact, we did not post this project on crowdfunding, but we did it ourselves, because if we would try to raise funds through the volunteer movement, we would have been doing this for another 5 years in order to collect enough. So, as a bonus, they made such a beauty for us. We asked, why so long? They answered, well, all the illumination, it's beautiful. Yes, in general, it's a great thing. Its functionality has not been studied. Honestly, we have not turned it on yet. We have finalized it before your eyes. How well it works, we do not know. That is why we will test it before your eyes. We will work before your eyes. In general, the program is very interesting in itself. It is aimed at studying, let's say, no magic, I'm telling you right away, nothing but science, aimed at studying our consciousness, reactions of our body and the like on similar things. The fact that even in this design it should be much more powerful than Kozyrev mirrors is 100%. It is out of the question. But how close we have brought it to the original? Well, we will see, we will study. Now Zahar will lead the project. He expressed his wish. As a continuation of physics already by inertia, the group exists, and those interested who will want to participate. Why? Because on the surface it is interesting, but in reality it is very tedious and very time-consuming, guys. So that you understand, 11 tori in 2 modes and a huge, up to 72-volt voltage difference. You can calculate how many combinations there are. All of these must be worked out with 4 types of people. Well, we will see how it works. So this is what I wanted to say before these experiments begin, otherwise we will go and forget. If it works and functions, basically we will see everything right away, and we will know whether it works or not. If it works, everything is fine. Zahar, I draw your attention first of all, and the attention of the guys who deal with RIT. What needs to be done? Once you start the first experiments, immediately develop such a system that you can address because it is long-lasting. And people who want to participate, even if they are not participants of Allatra, doesn't matter, all people. Well, maybe someone is interested, young people or someone else. Let's take at least 12 symbols. You just need to choose a good operator. I will later tell you the best way to choose him or her from those participants who will take part in your experiment. We will try to repeat what was done on Kozyrev mirrors. It is interesting. They did it, I believe, on over 5,000 people, the participants, and had a good result. It would be good to beat their record. I think if we are not too lazy, it will be interesting, right? Why do I address the IT group? We need to create a message, that is a brief description, what it is, what the experiment is about, what it gives, and so on, okay? Plus, I also wanted to say that in the spiritual aspect, guys, do not make emphasis on any development of super abilities or something else. This is a tool for studying. Does it have an impact? It has. Does it work? It does. It works even without any of these electronic gadgets, although electronics here are actually not as complicated as the design itself. So, during the experiment, it is necessary to use at least a basic thing. That is a voltmeter. It should not sink, it should not short-circuit, in theory, but it was made in one day. Yesterday, right? In one day they welded it, an ordinary Chinese voltmeter. The only thing is that it should be placed in the aquarium. Why is this necessary? Every time after working on Tari, a person goes out, puts his hands on it, measures, well, this is banal safety, guys. Because in some specific algorithms of its work, the device can, let's say, induce a static voltage in a person so that it is clear and so on. Usual water is used and an ordinary voltmeter. Let's have a look at it right away. It should work. Okay. Let's try it on Krona. Krona is 9 volt, isn't it?
Yes.
At the same time, we will check it. The only thing is that this device has to be sensitive. We haven't brought a magnetometer. We forgot about it. We should have found a good magnetometer. This is also one of the means. Come on, put it. Wait. Well, this is fine. A loose contact.
Here it shows 8.
Now. Well, as you can see, we have everything impromptu. Nothing is prepared. Everything is Chinese. Chinese things are good, but it's okay.
Here it shows.
Well, it shows 9 volts, so it works. Even, you see, it shows the thousandths. What did we need such a Chinese device for? In order to show even thousandths. That is, any oscillation, even insignificant one. Zahar, I emphasize. Now we will test it on a little battery. If there is oscillation after the experiment, a person gets out of there, puts his hands, stands there for a moment, counts up to 3, 501, 502, 503, and there is oscillation even up to 1 volt. Hence, it is better not to be lazy to take a shower, to stand for at least a minute or to stand and breathe for about 5 minutes without jerking around, and to try not to think about anything bad. Again, you will immediately explain to those who will participate in the experiment that in order for it to work, they need to press their hands to it tightly. It is glass and ordinary water here. Just ordinary water, guys. For them not to think, since we are filming, that there is an electrolyte or anything else. One has to feel the warmth of each hand. That is, when a person gets out, he puts his hands and tries to feel, let's say, with his right hand, the warmth of his left hand. What for? In order to concentrate, just to focus on the warmth coming from both hands. So now we will try this battery, will it show anything or not? Well, it shows up to thousandths, 1 volt, and so put it there. Do not drop it into the water. Well, if it doesn't short circuit and does not break, basically, let's hope nothing like that will happen. However, better safe than sorry, so the device should work Zahar. If we later bring magnetometer, it can also be used. We will explain how and so on. I mean, to test any person who comes out. Well, I think we will turn it on now and check whether it actually starts or not. Well, there is no short circuit, it's already encouraging. Okay, try to turn it on. You see, it even starts. So I propose to conduct the first experiment. Now we will find out who is willing to be the first, really the first one to enter the closed pyramid when it is turned off. I have just tried to sit in there, it works fine. But when it is turned on, we need someone who wants to and who is physically strong and healthy. No, it would be a pity to lose you. We might need you. We will think about it, yes. So I propose, let's try several stages. A person goes in there, what, how to behave. A lot depends on how a person behaves in the device itself. Why? If a person enters, jerks, fidgets, moves around, flutters his eyelids, thinks about someone owing him $5 and hasn't paid it back yet, guys, trust me, none of these devices will work. In order to understand whether the device works or not, you need a sound skepticism and an adequate, sound attitude to reality. Do not expect that miracle will happen. No miracle will happen in the first place. A person enters, sits comfortably, hands on the armrests, closed his eyes, open it up. It's not quite comfortable to get in and out, but carefully, through this one. In addition, there have to be assistants, 2 of them. Here, you see how they are standing, Zahar, especially so that you can see. 2 people for urgent need. Why? Closed space. Someone might have claustrophobia. A person might feel bad due to fear. So, help is needed to evacuate him on time. And also there should be a medical kit and ammonia. Nothing to fear. It won't electrocute. For understanding, the electromagnetic field that is created inside is even weaker than during a call from a smartphone. This is what happens inside. It is real. Everything that is going on takes place inside the walls, in the very walls of this device. Therefore, it does not pose any threat to a person if he is healthy and if he hasn't made something up for himself and hasn't started focusing attention on something else. First, one needs to take a seat, calm down, close the eyes and relax. Sound skepticism, do not wait for anything to happen, do not try to sense. You just need to evaluate the situation. What is happening? Are there any pictures before your eyes? Are there any physical sensations? Nothing more. Has it changed? What is happening to you now? You are sitting in the chair. Yes, those of you who will be there. And momentarily, that is, literally we give 5 minutes. In general, it's long-term work. At times, let's say up to 40 minutes, even up to an hour, a person can be in the device because this process is closely connected, let's say, with the hypothesis that you spoke about in physics. It is the isosmic grid movement and all this accumulation. In order for it to work efficiently, it needs, like any car or engine, to gain momentum, then it starts working better. Well, let's test it. Literally, we are testing. So do not expect anything greater. Well, let's try at least for 5 minutes. You simply need to sit quietly for 5 minutes. After that, the guys will knock, which means the one who has fallen asleep in there has to wake up. It is advisable not to snore hard because it's going to be loud. There is resonance because it's empty. They will open the door. You don't need to force open the door. If you don't feel good or something else, feel frightened or have claustrophobia, just knock and the door will be opened immediately. This is what people are needed for. Got it, Zahar? This is a mandatory rule. For example, a person might feel bad because of claustrophobia, and there is no one to help. It is difficult to open by yourself. Therefore, a group should work. So who do we choose? Who will be a victim today? Let it be the most athletic one. Kostik? If you don't mind, guys. This man is merited in sport, so let's hope. So we have agreed. You sit quietly, close your eyes, just calmly. The difference between, let's say, when you were sitting on the chair and what is here. Close it, guys.
We will probably not turn anything on right now.
Nothing. No, idle run. That is, the device is absolutely switched off. We are trying just to test an idle run for up to 5 minutes. Knock. We are opening. It's clear that it is an idle run. Come out. Yes, go over that side. Try right away to put your hands on it. Like that. Yes, tightly. Just hold them tightly. And now 501, 502, 503. At the same time, try to feel the warmth coming from your hands. This is a mandatory practice, guys. In the idle mode, it is not necessary the heart. It does not work. It cannot appear. Okay, enough. 501, 502, 503, and that's it. But when working with Tori, now we are going to turn on the Tori and try it out. So with the Tori, it is mandatory. You will do it 20,000 times and nothing, but on the 20,000th and first time, some combination may match. Therefore, it's better not to play with this. Be objective. What is your perception?
Well, according to my perception, the following was happening. I calmed down, took a few breaths, deep breaths, in and out. After that, I concentrated completely on the lotus, on the inner, and it was as follows. At first, it was as if, let's say, a neutral situation. Then, gradually, heat began to rise. The heat increased. It was interesting, not only from the inside, not only internally, but as if from the outside in several stages. It was stronger, and at once, abruptly. Compression was felt from all sides. After that,
Compression is one of the first reactions induced by the structure itself. If someone had been inside Kozyrev mirrors, they felt that growth of this compression occurs after about an hour stay inside. Then it begins to work. But I mean, there are people who have been there with skepticism, rationally enough, without anticipation. This device begins to work right away. Why? Because its very design, as you know, it mirrors the energy structure of a human. So it starts working very quickly. I apologize for interrupting. I'm just clarifying so as not to forget later.
after compression, there was such a moment, let's say, such a temporary period, well, a few seconds, yes, several seconds, 30 seconds of the same state. Then the compression became stronger. Afterwards.
So there was an increase precisely in external compression.
Afterwards, I kind of carefully, with my attention, went out to see what was happening, wanting to see in a way what would happen next after the compression. At a certain stage, there was such a sound, whoosh, kind of like a spiral. I cannot explain in this way.
So you really started hearing, in addition,
I clearly heard a sound like whoosh, as if it reminds, as if a whipping top, or such a big whipping top.
that is, the impact already spread to the auditory nerves.
Right. I clearly heard this. Naturally, I began to listen carefully. This moment then disappeared. I focused more on what was going on. And also, spiral movements were distinctly felt. For some reason, I saw left side at once. I don't know why.
This is normal. When you are in the structure, more spiral-like movements actually arise. Now we will try with the Tori. I think no one will object that we do the whole cycle of our tests with one person so that he can objectively see. Because if we start to alternate, it would sort of be lost a little bit. I think it will be more objective this way, if you don't mind. Let's try. Now we will turn it on, already with the Tori. Come in, please. Let it be the 5th, the 6th, and just up to half power. Well, let it be somewhere at 30. DC.
DC?
DC, yes. Well, it's more sparing mode. That's enough. That's enough. Guys, let us give the man 5 minutes of peace.
Покоя.
Does it hold? No deviations or oscillations? Good, fabulous. If suddenly there are oscillations, tell me. If it is stable, it's good. It holds well, completely steady. What a display, like a clock. Well done, they did it very well. On the last one there were oscillations and deviations, while this one is absolutely stable. Well done. Turn off the Atari. Go to the unit, yes, and you just count 1, 2, 3. Feel the warmth. It's better 501, 502, 503. I think this time is more than enough. And still, hold it and have a little look. When you hold it with both hands, keep an eye on it. If there is any oscillation, hold it until it levels off. Well, in case it suddenly appears or something else, alright? Why? Because the field, Well, these are field structures. Again, this largely relates not just to those who study thermodynamics, but to quantum thermodynamics. Why? Because there is water, there is no electrolyte here, and if you have noticed, the rods are made of graphite. So the chemical reaction is like with voltaic piles. Well, when copper and zinc are used, it is simply impossible. But theoretically, I'll repeat again, those who understand quantum thermodynamics a little bit, they should be aware that this has to be a very powerful field, an electric field in order to cause oscillations. But as a rule, it actuates. Let's say manifestations arise due to the secondary. That is, the field is formed inside, in this case, inside the liquid. It doesn't matter what we have used there. Of course, an electrolyte is more sensitive, electric current appears faster and so on. But this is much more objective, it is more real. Why? Because if stationary Po particles have activated, it means that an excitation has begun, and again, an internal field emerges, and here already, let's say, the release of the movement of electrons is already a secondary manifestation. Well, I'm telling you this so that you understand. Therefore, if there is slightest oscillation, a person should take a shower or stand for at least 3 seconds and get a lungful of air. After he had breathed deeply enough, then it is already possible to say, but on the same day it is undesirable to involve him again, while all the algorithms should be recorded right away. On the next day, the person should be tested again in the same mode. If it reoccurs with the same person, that is, another person should not be tested in the same mode on the same day. Okay? I mean, you tried. If there is at least 1,000th oscillation, you should write down all the parameters at which this has happened. On the next day or the day after it, the same person should be tested. If there are oscillations again, then only after these it's already a stable indicator. Only after these you can involve another person in the experiment at the same phases. But in order to make it clear, it works for one, for 3 others it does not. You see, there are different people here, and in order to find these algorithms, but again, guys, this is not an indicator. You don't need to strive for this. Much more important are those effects that happen to a person himself inside. It is very important, of course, the presence of a psychologist or one of our guys. What for? In order to test, in order to assess the person's objectivity, what effects he experiences, to what extent it expands his consciousness, let's say, and to what extent it frees from consciousness. Let's put it this way. These are the parameters. We will put it this way carefully in front of the camera because other people will also be watching. Are there differences in your subjective, real sensations?
Yes, there are differences. So, the first difference is that you instantly feel this dense field. Well, what is it like? As if it is a little bit different. The field is constant.
And that is slightly different. What is the difference? We have been using the 5th and 6th theory.
If for the first time it was as if the density was felt immediately, as if a little bit of density, a lesser density. The second moment was all about lightness. This is felt immediately. Such a lightness that you don't feel the body at all. Absolutely no sense of the body. There is sort of...
I will explain, may I, in order not to interrupt. We used the 5th and the 6th theory. They are located at the bottom side of the top and at the upper side of the pyramid itself. So it turns out that it becomes more complicated for primary consciousness to contact personality. If we based on the theory, let's say, or hypothesis about the structure of a human. So the impact goes directly to primary consciousness. Excuse me, I insert comments, just in order not to forget.
In addition to lightness, it was very pleasant to be there for 5 minutes.
Just pleasant?
Very comfortable.
Have we discussed this topic with you? Are you suborned or not? Tell people straight in their eyes.
No, I'm not.
What is this for? Because those who will be watching, and many of you may have a question, that we have conspired. That is why I chose Konstantin. I chose Konstantin because of his athletic background and stability, and everything is fine. Those who know him understand why it's exactly him. He's more stable, objective and so on, I mean in real matters. And this objective assessment shows lightness and liberation. There is as a rising inner joy and inner freedom. This is exactly a release or, let's say, reduction of the impact. We have taken the minimal parameters, low power and 5 minutes duration. Guys, I repeat once again, 5 minutes. It's not even enough for the device to warm up during this time. Objectively, it will start working. It needs 15 to 20 minutes to warm up. But 5 minutes for a test is very good. Now we can say that, yes, the device is functional. If Konstantin doesn't mind, we will run our test also in another special mode. The special mode is absolutely safe. The special mode is designed for working in closed groups. What closed groups are? I think we will talk about this, because this is just the reason for our gathering today. But it's not for everyday work. Yet, we would like to run a test on an independent expert who has something to compare with. You don't mind, do you? Good. Then we will get everything ready. Hold on for now. So guys, I'll explain. These are boxes. Many have had questions, have seen that we were running about not letting them go. This is not to show off or appear like some performance, a theatrical show. The point is that, yes, there are flash drives with certain information there, and the equipment is electronic, as you yourselves understand. The flash drives are inside the box with an electronic cracker. If it activates everyone who has mobile phones within the radius of 50 meters, phones will simply cease to exist. Cars too, so we treat it carefully. That is why we take them with us. We care for your mobile phones. Okay. Open it up. And now, 1 second.
Everything's fine. I'm ready.
Ready? And now. Thank God. It's just that they are synchronized. If you turn them on separately, the sensor activates. And that's all. The key? Turn it on right away. Has it loaded? Well, there is no guarantee it will load at all. We are testing it for the first time, frankly speaking, in the working mode. Does it read? And Andrei, let's do the very, very minimum. Also 5 minutes. Set the utmost minimum.
At the low one?
Yes, at the lowest level. The very minimum. Guys, the electronics are the same. I'm just warning, Zahar. The point is that all that is written there is a special program, but these very Tori are working. That is why you do the tests when it is needed. Do you understand? And this is no joke. Well, Godspeed.
Which Tori? And at what level?
Let's do the minimum. And perhaps let's activate the first and the fourth.
The first? The fourth?
Enough. The first and the fourth.
DC?
Yes, DC at the minimum.
Now? Like this?
Okay, enough.
And we are setting the minimum.
Set it at the minimum.
Everything is at the minimum.
The man is unprepared, so let's not take risks. That's it. 5 minutes of silence, guys. Before you take him out, turn everything off, okay? You can hear how the device is working. Do you feel it? Good job. The very minimum. Have you timed it?
Yes.
All right. Do you sense the field coming from the device? Great. The indicators are off scale and it's at minimum. How much more time? Maybe we should take him out sooner. No, let him sit. If oscillations repeat, hold it, hold it.
Everything is at the minimum. I turn the thin one to the lowest position.
Turn it off. That's it. Turn it off. Turn it off. That's it. Now.
Постучи.
Guys, we had to interrupt a little because our minimum capacities are slightly increasing. Test yourself simply. 1, 2, 3. Hold it tight. Focus on it. Stop. Andrei. Zahar. It showed 2.66. It goes down.
I've seen it.
Well, guys, that is why we have stopped, because the spike was very sharp. Put your hands down, please. Inhale, exhale. Take a deep breath and test it again. Look, there is some fogging right away. Do you see?
And the trace has remained. Air bubbles have remained.
The bubbles appeared right away. That's it. It has all calmed down. Well, I have to say the device is working. We have approximately 2.66, right? Somewhere around that. In order for you to understand, it is not the right environment for these oscillations to appear. There should be none of them at all. But since a reaction has taken place, well, we see even now there is a little bit, well, anyway. So there has been a release, a little reaction took place. Of course, if we had a magnetometer, we could have made a more accurate measurement. But not every magnetometer will suit here either. Yet, this is quite an interesting thing. In order for you to understand, guys, regarding the level, what this gave us, everyone knows that there are people with extraordinary abilities, there are psychics and the like. But to cause such an oscillation in such an environment, for a person with some psychic abilities, up to 3 volts, well, let's say, today in the world, there are 2 people at most who are not undercover and who could repeat what Konstantin has shown us just now. I'm not kidding, it's really so. One Chinese man, he practices Qigong, a very strong person. He's very advanced in this field. He was tested many times at various institutions and everything is actually confirmed. As they say, the man has well-developed metaphysical abilities. And there is one Australian woman, also with a good potential. I don't know if she can cope or not, but the Chinese man will do it for sure. So there are one or maximum two people in the world. Have you been a psychic before this, honestly? Within what time? A minute and a half? In 2? In 2.5 minutes, he showed. Well, this is a device effect, that's clear, but in any case, we know that it works, although by and large. Konstantin, can you walk around a little bit? Take a little walk, or walk the stairs. Do a little motor activity. In order for you to understand, guys, well, you will hear criticism regarding our film, and your consciousness will tell you that it's impossible. Those who understand physics at least a little, while consciousness does understand it, will read textbooks, see if there can be such an oscillation in water between two electrodes made of graphite in a glass aquarium, especially if a person did not get in there, was not inside, water is just water, and so on. Well, I should say, guys, even stranger things happen. Since we have already risen this topic, and we will be criticized anyway, we will be criticized hard, then purely for our people. If you don't mind, let us demonstrate something a little bit different. Well, who? This one is sitting. Go ahead, Andrei. Konstantin, please come here. Have a little walk around. Andrei, 80 to 100, no more voltage. Okay?
Don't sit down.
Do not sit down, better walk around. Right. Everything is simple. No one disturbs him, no one jumps. Look carefully, guys. No one jumps at him, no one interferes, no one beats the drum or waves incense. I clap, make loud noises. It continues to function. Okay, just a little bit more, a little more. We will not go to the maximum today, as we did last time. Enough, Andrei, stop it. That's all. 107, 112, that's it, it goes down. Well done, we have reached 112 volts. And now, guys, I will explain to you what 112 volts mean. 112 volts created at any local point regardless of the environment. How serious is it? And why these tools? Well, some people took offense, right, Konstantin, that there are closed groups. We had a conversation about this not so long ago, what closed groups are and what voltage is. I'll tell you a little about it. Imagine what will happen if in the cerebrospinal fluid locally, and there is no difference, believe me, we conducted similar experiments with this field. He has left, he doesn't work there anymore, but this field, which is acting, you see how it decreases slowly. I get back to this point again. If we had the necessary device, well, we haven't brought it with us as usual. We did not even have time to finish assembling it. Then we could still be measuring the electromagnetic field for a long time in this place, so to say. This is very interesting. Indeed, even with the aquarium removed, the background effect would still remain, and for a very long time. Why? For those who have extrasensory abilities, this field will be felt for a very long time, guys. What's the point? Let's return to what we began with. Imagine. You don't have to answer me, just answer yourselves. Each of you would like to have some abilities. Magical, extrasensory, and so on. However, would you be able to restrain even from elementary things and simply not use these abilities in everyday life, in this world? Honestly, someone offended you at school and memory leaves, someone stepped on your foot, someone borrowed money and doesn't pay back, or something else. I repeat, at any point, regardless of distance. During the experiments at a given time, one operator worked with several devices simultaneously. The difference in distances was continents. Without any loss of time, according to our sensors. As you understand, the sensors were self-made. There could have been some deviations, but without loss of time, both sensors went off simultaneously, locally, at a given point, no greater than this. The voltage was slightly higher, about 400 volts. This is for you to understand. As of today, even 112 volts, even less, much less, that occur inside the cranium, means stopping of brain functions once and forever. The same goes with the heart and everything else. So how dangerous is it? It is dangerous. Even more than dangerous. Local occurrence of such a voltage in the gas tank of a car, regardless of whether there is gasoline or diesel fuel or something else. And do you understand what will happen at this voltage? Distance and time here, there is relatively no loss in time. Let's say the operator has to tune in from the beginning until this point. Well, Andrei has done a good job today. Almost immediately, basically as of today, well done. But not only cars have gas tanks, guys. There are ones in airplanes and so on. Simply put, a person with even slightly developed, let's say, similar abilities but being under the control of consciousness. I'll repeat again, under the control of consciousness. It would not be difficult for him, having at least a bit of normal intellect, to seize power all over the world. No kidding. That's how serious and dangerous it is. That is why there are closed groups. All of you have heard about them, but we will speak about them a little bit later. What Konstantin has shown us today. Similar abilities, about 3 balls. Imagine, for those of you who are in healthcare and understand, 3 balls which are, let's say, excitation is local in the area of intestine. What will that lead to? It is medication-resistant intractable diarrhea, right? Those who know. Just imagine dying from dehydration on the toilet. This doesn't bring anything good, and believe me, what the guys are doing is no big deal. This what we have shown. We just tested the device, and there are too many rumors, too much misunderstanding. That's why we have demonstrated that it's not about the device, guys. Andrei, with noise interference, without any incense as we have seen, has not sat down in some kind of meditation or something else. This can be tested and verified as much as you like and on anything you want. And, let's say, there is nothing really new here. Does it violate the laws of physics? Yes, it does, guys. But not the laws of physics that actually exist. Therefore, well, in general, it is clear. Now why? Many will have a question. Why isn't it spreading? Why do closed groups exist? In closed groups, what they are doing, that's nothing. It's not even considered practice. But creation of closed groups does not mean that they are secret. No, they are not secret. In order for a group to work properly, first of all, a desire is not enough, aspiration is not enough, but you still need real work on yourself, a serious one. In order for a group to stabilize, years are needed. It really takes years for them to work synchronously, so that they don't have dissonance. The arrival of any new person, I have just told the guys, a person comes, he is controlled by his consciousness. He is with his earthly desires and attachments, with a bunch of problems. He creates dissonance and the group doesn't work. While in this case, these things are very important, therefore these groups existed and they worked. There are only a few of them. People got in the group, some had to leave for improvement, I mean at preparatory stages. It is clear that when a group has started to work, a person, let's say, will not leave anywhere. He will stay and will never use disabilities against people or humanity. All this is necessary for other things. Let's say for more serious ones than fooling around. Or, God forbid, someone has offended, so let him die of diarrhea in the toilet. That's not right. They will never do such a thing. But when at selection stages there appeared people who were, let's say, a little bit attached to the material or could not cope, they had to go for independent work. What does independent work mean? They cannot work together with the group, so people are given an opportunity and as much time as a person needs, he works on himself with the prospect of returning. Nobody was invited for no reason. If someone was invited, it means there were abilities, there were opportunities. However, some people, let's say, returned after working on themselves, while others continue to work on themselves. And many make remarkable and magnificent achievements. And I'm happy about that. Well, naturally, there were those who were like, if God did not give me what I wanted, I will go to serve the devil. Because of that, there were all sorts of rumors, misunderstandings and the like. But as a result of the emergence of rumors about closed groups, people emulated, heard that this exists and created their own closed groups. And they began to teach something. There is no knowledge, no understanding. And what did it lead to? Susanians, let's call them so, went down their own path themselves and led others along with them. That is why we have shown a little bit of what it is. Well, it's not entirely right that we have demonstrated this, but on the other hand, this is clear to you. On the other hand, it is clear that this is not a game. I repeat again, this violates all laws. We have shown this also in order for people to understand how serious the device is are, and do not anticipate that you will succeed right away. Maybe right away. The question is different. What should happen? Do not wait for these effects. This is fooling around. They are dangerous. Not knowing how to use them, you can cause a lot of trouble with these tools. Therefore, the goal for you guys should not be a search for some earthly power, but studying the work of human consciousness, that is, how it influences psyche, what changes happen. And again, regarding an operator's work on transmission of symbols, that is, telepathic abilities. People who are not connected to the device, they are in daily life, but a certain time is appointed. This is what we talked about at the beginning, a specific time. Let's suppose we agreed on March 8 at a specific time GMT. We calculated so that it would be convenient for everyone who will be involved. Which countries, who we will send invitations to participate, the youth group, and just some collectives. People responded and decided to participate. For example, 12 symbols are sent to them, but this is already what we will sort out with the IT. Their task at this time is simply to sit down, relax, and record the dominant symbol which dominates all the others. The symbols are numbered. Let's say it's the 11th. And via email they send the 11th symbol. That is the one which a person saw, but the symbol can come, as we know from the experience, not our own, but from other people's experience. Symbols can come earlier, they can come later, they can come exactly at a given time. Therefore, if a person has a symbol haunting him, they need to be warned about this. He should mark the time and send it, but he should send it only after the agreed time has passed. He doesn't send it in advance in order not to baffle the operator. The operator selects the symbol by himself, underlines it, sits down and starts mental transmission. Mental transmission does not mean broadcasting, he is just holding the symbol clearly. Then the device itself, the structure itself works. While for those who are interested in all this, I think they will read it themselves. And most importantly, what this spacecraft provides, as it was made for us all, so beautiful and elegant. As a matter of fact, this device, well, if you remove all these decorations, I repeat again, they do not work. It was done for the beautiful look. It gives the understanding of what the pyramids were needed for. That will be all. Thank you for your attention. Now, let's listen to Konstantin. What have you felt in these 2.5 minutes? Objectively.
Objectively, there was the following sensation. I will describe how I felt this in myself. You can imagine this as in the background of a radio wave, which is infinite and constant. And in this radio wave, in such an oscillation, I felt myself all the time that I was inside. A sensation of density and this oscillation.
Did the oscillation occur through you, or did you feel yourself as a wave?
No, I was sort of in a certain state where this oscillation was happening.
So you were as if in an environment where this oscillation was happening.
I could say it's a mountain stream, but this is not right. It's more like this.
Well, this is right.
Because there was no such thing. Well, something like that.
And what about the feeling of heat or fear?
No, there was no fear.
Good.
Of course, I wanted to return for the second time, because it was very comfortable. Because when there is an oscillation, consciousness doesn't understand what is happening. That's why, kind of...
Thank you very much for your participation. Guys, excuse us. We will now turn our equipment off, lock it, and turn on the unsealable unit. And if there are those who desire, what do we need? We need a couple of people, assistants, who will perform the functions of our guys. Let's simply test. We need a new experimental subject. Zahar, please, take the seat. Now we will turn it off and see how you manage this. And should anyone have questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, Andrea, let's turn it off. Let's do it.
Давай.
Ready? 1, 2. Everything is perfect. Well, yes, hold it for me, please. Thank you. Well, this is safety, guys. Done. I'm done. Have you taken this one off? You have. Everything is done. Zahar, welcome. Those who want, please, help on duty at the door. Come on, guys. Who wants to?
Ну, кто?
Who will get inside the device?
Аппарат полезет.
Zahar, select those who desire, who crave for. Who will? And don't drop it. Be careful with it, for our electronics engineers put many mirrors here. They attached so many things here, although the door itself is heavy and huge. Well, it runs idle now. There's no need. And when a torus is turned on, one more thing. A person gets in, you turn this on, and it's better to take off all trinkets. Excess metal items and cell phones should be turned off all the more. No, I mean the one who sits inside. Alright, be in command. Let's first take a couple of minutes, 5 minutes. Simply in silence. It produces splendid results, doesn't it? Let's just imagine a person who has undergone no training at all, nothing, at minimal charges, within 2.5 minutes. And what if we make it 15 or 20 minutes? It is as if he worked on it for 10 years. As simple as a heartbeat. This way, it was easy to start. Well done. Have you felt the field of the device when it worked at the third one enabled? We'll take him out now and carry away the cases.
The energy structure has the form of a truncated pyramid with a detached top. The square base of the pyramid is divided into 4 parts by a diagonal cross. A person is located in the center of the diagonal cross, which divides the space around him into 4 parts that have volume. In other words, there are 4 triangular-shaped spaces in front, behind, and on each side of the person. These spaces are zones of the essences. Moreover, the human body emits the so-called biofield. This biofield is non-uniform in its frequency characteristics because the frequency emitted by the brain differs from the frequency of other organs such as kidneys or liver. That's why the human biofield is multicolored. Now let's take a closer look at the detached top of the pyramid. The top is located about 0.5 meter or 1.5 feet above the tip of the head. This distance is approximate because every person is unique. It is here, in the conventional top of the pyramid, that thoughts are born. Personality is located in the center of the top. Personality is what any person feels himself to be during life. It is the one who makes a choice between the spiritual and animal natures, draws conclusions, does analytical work, and accumulates personal experience of dominant feelings and emotions. Between the top and the truncated pyramid, there is consciousness, or rather, a field of consciousness that consists of septons. The top of the pyramid is a kind of antenna that constantly receives thoughts. Thoughts, in their turn, are waves coming from the outside. The process of emergence of thoughts in human consciousness can be roughly divided into 3 stages. Thoughts attack or excite the membrane structures of the top of the pyramid. The wave of excitation is transmitted further to the field of consciousness, and this process is a reaction of consciousness to external thoughts. The field of consciousness, in its turn, transmits reactive response impulses to personality and the brain. It is noteworthy that the same areas of personality and the brain are excited. At the same time, the activity of the septon field of consciousness increases. At the third and final stage, the brain sends a response impulse to personality through the septon field of consciousness. Here is how this process looks in action. Now let's take a look at the main and the most important part of the human structure, the soul. The soul is true antimatter, and the rest of the energy structure in 6 dimensions is built around it. If we take the structure of the physical body, the approximate location of the soul is the solar plexus area, which is the actual center of a human being. The soul enters the developing energy structure of a human being on the 8th day after the birth of the physical body. Between the soul and personality, there is the so-called silver thread. This is the channel which connects the soul and the personality. The soul is continuously sending the power of a lot to personality through this septon channel. The power of a lot is given to a human for personality to merge with the soul. It is this power that constitutes the power of attention. Personality activates those programs to which it gives the power of its attention. If personality puts more attention into the septon field, meaning material existence, then the power of a lot is irrevocably spent on maintaining and developing the material system. As a result, after the death of the body, personality turns into a sub-personality, which is an informational part of the mortal material system. If every day personality gives more attention to the deepest feelings, directing them towards the soul, as a result, a qualitative change of the energy structure takes place, and personality merges with the soul. An entirely new being emerges, a being of the spiritual world.
Let's open it synchronously, guys. Very well. Please come out to people, gentlemen. Well, it's not necessary to undergo the test after the idol pyramid, but one may do this.
It's a habit.
Well, such a habit should be cultivated, and here, attention, one should again feel the heat of one's hands. Oh, there is such sediment. Alright, about 3 seconds are enough. 501, 502, 503. You count. As for the opening of a parachute, if there are no oscillations, it means everything is fine, you may keep working. Guys, does anyone have questions? If you have any questions, please ask. If not, let's proceed. Let's invite somebody else. You? No? Just to test.
Should one take the watch off?
If it's the idle pyramid, it doesn't matter. But when the device is running, when it is switched on, it is advisable to take off rings and earrings. Well, one should get rid of metal items, and the phones should be turned off all the more. The device does not generate a great electromagnetic field, but, let's say, when a wrong mode is accidentally selected, the wave vibrations I mentioned might do harm and cause a burn of tissue because certain vortices arise around metal items. It's better not to injure oneself.
What are the contraindications?
Yes, guys, these are epilepsy, schizophrenia, infarctions, acute mental and psychological disorders, cardiovascular diseases, claustrophobia, generally speaking, everything that can get activated in a person in a closed space. If a person had a craniocerebral injury, he or she should better not play with this. Why? Because a closed space itself can cause phenomena, and when the device is running, such phenomena can result, God forbid, in exacerbation or something else. So it's better to be careful in such cases, okay?
The electron can exist in two states simultaneously in the material world, as a particle and as a wave. It can manifest itself in different places at the same time, according again to quantum physics. Leaving, or rather disappearing from its nuclear orbit, the electron moves instantly. That is, it disappears here and appears on another orbit.
But the most interesting thing here is what scientists do not yet know. Consider, for example, an electron of the hydrogen atom, which is an element that is a part of water, living organisms and natural resources. It is also one of the most common elements in space. The atomic orbital that surrounds the nucleus of the hydrogen atom is spherically shaped. This is what the present-day science can detect. But scientists do not yet know that the electron itself is twisted into a helix, spiral. Moreover, depending on the charge location, this helix, one and the same, can be both left-handed and right-handed, depending on the location of charge in it. It is thanks to this spiral shape and the change of location of charge concentration that this electron goes easily from the particle state to a wave and vice versa.
Here is a figurative example. Imagine that you have an orange in your hands. Using a knife, you carefully remove the whole peel from it in a circle, like a spiral, moving from one of its vertices, let's say, conventionally, from point A to another, point B. If you separate this peel from the orange, then in the usual folded state, it will be a spherical shape, echoing contours of the orange. If stretched, it will be similar to a wave-like rope. So, in our figurative example, the orange peel will represent the electron helix, on the surface of which there is an external charge in the area of point A, while the internal charge is in the area of point B on the inside, on the white side of the peel. Any external change in point A on the orange side of the peel will lead to the same instant internal change, but which will be opposite in the power and influence in the points located on the white side of the peel under point B. As soon as the external electron charge decreases, the helix becomes stretched under the influence of the internal potential, and the electron goes into the wave state. When the external charge reappears, which is formed due to an interaction of waves with matter, the helix compresses and the electron goes into particle state again. In the particle state, the electron has a negative external charge and a left-handed helix. And in the wave state, it has a right-handed helix and a positive external charge. All this transformation happens due to azoosmos.
The observer, from the perspective of three-dimensional world, can see the electron as a particle, if certain technical conditions are created. But the observer, from the perspective of higher dimensions, who will see our material world in the form of energies, will be able to observe another structure of electron. In particular, the information building blocks that make up that electron will only show the properties of energy waves of a stretched helix. Besides, this wave will be infinite in space. Put simply, the position of the electron is such in the overall system of reality that it will be located everywhere in the material world.
Anastasia, could you say that it will exist regardless of whether we see it as observers of three-dimensional world or not? Rigden, yes. In order to understand this, let's consider another example with a mirror. Suppose that several basic information building blocks form a structure that represents a local point. Some object. We put it in the middle of a room, in which a multitude of mirrors is placed under a certain angle in such a way that it is reflected in each of them. So the object is in the middle of the room, and it is reflected in every mirror. Also, we see it, and therefore, information about it exists in our minds. In short, the information about the object exists simultaneously in several places. If we remove one of the mirrors, we will not observe this object in that place. But when we return the mirror, it will reappear. So, in fact, information about it has not disappeared. It is just that we see the object under certain conditions of manifestations of information, and once conditions have changed, we no longer see it. Objectively, however, this object continues to exist in that place in terms of information. The reflection may have a continuous flow, so it means that this object exists in each point of this room and, incidentally, not only of the room, but also of the space outside the limits of the room, regardless of whether we see it or not.
Next one. What should I do? Hold together? They said it's not necessary.
Maybe you would share on camera what you have felt or sensed.
Yes, you know what was clear? It was like wearing waterproof headphones, and it was great in general. So good, calm. It feels as if I was wearing some sort of a cap. Walls are felt, and I was sitting calmly, that's all. It just feels like a pyramid.
And what about you, Miroslav?
Quiet. First, a reaction of the body. It feels like everything is beating. Then hop. They closed it. A minute. And such peace. And the voice says, finally. There is silence. And then there was a feeling that here...
And where the voice came from, inside or outside?
Outside. Everything regarding physical sensations. It was as if squeezing here. Well, as if it is went like woo. As if something was put on the head. But I felt only on the sides. Well, a little. And then there was an image like, for some reason, lilac, such a color. Well, that's all. Nothing more.
Maybe one of the girls wants. For now, only boys are experimenting.
Yes, it would be of significant help for people to understand what consciousness really is and what you are as personality.
Yes, of course. There are two types of consciousness. The first consciousness, let's call it primary consciousness, is the main one and is born together with the physical body. It's a consciousness of a primate, of an animal. While the next layer of consciousness, which manifests itself in opposition to the manifestation of personality in a human body, is already secondary consciousness. Secondary consciousness is like a modern consciousness or a new consciousness. It is also called human consciousness. Here it's important to understand that owing to secondary consciousness, we have overtaken apes in our intellectual development. This new consciousness is very aggressive and active. although both one and the other part of our consciousness are nothing else but a part of the whole system. And it is clear that it's a field structure. By no means these are neurons of the brain and the like. Neurons of the brain, we already discussed this in one of the videos, are merely, let's say, physics. Neurons are the structures which transform information that comes from the field structures of consciousness into physical, then into chemical reactions, then back into physical ones, and so on. But this is by no means where a thought merges or originates from, and where it works. As of today, thank God, our scientists already understand perfectly well that they observe only reactions. After the birth of a human being, primary consciousness is directly connected with the entire composition of the human body. It controls the entire human chemistry and everything else. But it has, I would say, an ill-defined intellect, meaning this consciousness is limited, but it is also connected with secondary consciousness. And here's an interesting point. A human soul enters a person exactly on the 8th day. Before the 8th day, a human is no different from an animal. A chimpanzee also has quite a well-developed primary consciousness. The analogy is actually very close. Let's say children of an ape and a human up to 3 years of age, up to 5 years old, develop practically in the same way. But then a human begins to break away sharply. Why does this happen? Precisely because on the 8th day after birth, a human, like a vessel, is filled with a human soul, and the soul creates personality. Personality is exactly what a human is in reality. It is who you are. Personality has nothing to do with the three-dimensional world. Well, let's say it is much higher in its dimensional hierarchy. Personality is directly connected with primary consciousness, but it is not connected with secondary consciousness. Secondary consciousness is what we habitually consider to be ourselves. That is how thoughts and images come. Our computing processes go on, that very logic, and many other things. So all these pictures, all this information that comes to us, it goes through secondary consciousness into primary consciousness, and then it is already primary consciousness that presents it to personality. That is for understanding of what follows what and why. Primary consciousness as such is directly connected with the three-dimensional world. It is connected with sight, hearing, and all our tactile sensations. It is associated with everything that enables us to perceive the three-dimensional world. Primary consciousness is what gives information about the three-dimensional world to our personality. Without secondary consciousness, all thoughts are reduced to almost a primitive state or to the consciousness of a primate. There will be very few thoughts, and only about what is necessary, mainly with the domination of our desires.
And a lot of emotions of a primate.
Yes, and it is again caused by the emotional sphere. Hatred, enmity, envy, all this is in primary consciousness. Well, and craving, desires, urges, and everything else. While secondary consciousness is exactly what imposes a lot of different desires and interests on primary consciousness. It is what we perceive as ourselves. Most often, a person associates himself precisely with secondary consciousness. If we think about it and start tracing how thoughts come, while thoughts in fact come mainly into secondary consciousness, all these flashing images, it is all going on there. But they are projected onto primary consciousness, that is, inside of us, let's say, in our structure. Primary consciousness observes them. Personality does not observe them directly. But it is through primary consciousness that personality already observes them. And it is exactly personality which gives that power, or that attention, let's call this power attention. It directs this attention to cling to this thought or not, to activate it or not. But what is the paradox also in? Primary consciousness also considers itself as I. It is that little child who lives within every person. Even in an old academician, there lives a little kid. Psychologists and neurophysiologists know this well. I'm not even talking about political scientists. Look, all the systems are developed for a child, for a little 6-year-old kid. That's when they work. Why? Because all this is targeted at primary consciousness. Secondary consciousness is like an antipode of personality. It is nothing other than the same reflection. We already talked about this. When a soul enters on the 8th day, a human becomes a human, a personality appears in him. And as an antipode of personality, secondary consciousness emerges. It is indeed a very strong artificial intelligence. Why artificial? We already discussed it, because the whole system is created artificially, and both primary and secondary consciousnesses are nothing other than a part of the system.
Please share with us, what have you felt?
Objectively, at first, the body reaction simply abated in some 30 seconds or so. Then there was a slight sensation of some lightness, and I felt it very well. Sergei Vasilyevich said it right. It was as if a cap. I felt an impact from here and from here. And at some point, in the middle of the time I spent inside, in the middle of that period of time, I felt the points. I felt here, and this point, and a point here. And the temperature somewhat increased, meaning it became warmer. And it became warmer from here. In this point, it became warmer.
The right upper one. Classics of the genre. I have just been asked a question. What is the whole point of this project? What does it give? The first thing it gives, and the purpose of this project is that it is possible to prove on simple experiments that we have consciousness and where it is located. So these are not some fantasies, inventions or hallucinations or something else. Objectively, these are real subjective things that indeed work, and many neurophysiologists and psychologists wonder, is our consciousness in neurons of the brain or not? Well, what are neurons? A neuron is a banal transistor and that's all. As for consciousness, many people already come to understanding that consciousness is outside the brain and so on. Since the structure is universal, and if you have noticed that the chair may be adjusted, here it should be adjusted so hard for everyone too. When a person is shorter, it should be higher. When one is taller, it should be lower and so on. That's right, based on the theory, again, purely hypothetically. I emphasize, so that overly clever scientists of this world would not attack us too much, there is an opinion that describes that a human personality is beyond our body. Let's say it is above. Between personality and our head, there is primary consciousness. Secondary consciousness is located outside, right above the top of this pyramid. It attacks personality in the detached top, while approximately within this space there is primary consciousness and the like. So this phenomena may be easily detected on all these effects. When we switch on different tori and different degrees of impact, these effects will exactly take place. Is this interesting? It's very interesting. Moreover, when our consciousness is cut off or released, so to say, it comes down, hence personality gains a certain degree of freedom. As a result, we have this effect on a torus as Konstantin has described, such an effect. Why has such an effect occurred with him? Because we switched on the 5th and 6th tori. Let me repeat again, it is the lower side of the detached top and the upper side of the pyramid itself, while between them there is exactly what is called primary consciousness. That is why a feeling of lightness and freedom arises like in a high-quality spiritual practice. Well, it's a good indicator. If you have questions, please ask them, guys. Go ahead.
What other tori are there? Where are they located? For us to understand in general how this influences the human structure.
11 tori are located on every plane. 5 tori on the top, meaning on all sides and at the bottom. On the lower part, at the pyramid itself, there are tori at the top, at the bottom, and on the sides. So there are 11 tori in total. Well, we will write down for Zahar in detail where each torus is located by numbers, so that they could work with peace of mind. Basically, even if totally all the tori are switched on, nothing will happen to a person. We can experiment. Are there any people who want to try? But it is better to take off rings. Metal things, if any, well...
Will we have to arrange a proper questionnaire by psychotypes? I mean, to mark out certain peculiarities.
People should be tested from the standpoint of psychology. Human consciousness is inclined to fantasies. Right? Right. So there are people inclined to fantasies, and there are more impartial people. If we take Constantine, why do I know some people better and I don't know others? Constantine is always impartial, and his friends who are close can confirm this. He is judicious. Here we should approach even with some skepsis. It should be studied from such a perspective. And what is important? To observe yourself at the given moment, meaning there should be a real observation of what is happening to you. There should be neither evaluation nor provoking of any effects nor playing magic. Can this intensify magic? Yes, I will say it can increase magic abilities, but you will have to pay for magic, guys. So it's better not to play with it. Yet this is free of charge. Science is free of charge, while magic is paid. If you want, you can play. This is your voluntary affair. Nobody will catch you by the hand when you sit inside. You are the operator. You amuse yourself on your own. Well, has he entered? Alright, Andrei, turn it on. Switch on the system. Let's set an easy mode. And if something happens, just knock. We will immediately open. Come on, let's switch on all of them.
DC?
In DC. Let's turn on auditory first. Let's switch on auditory. All. Now I'll set them to 10.
Are these volts?
Yes, this device works colossally in general. It's not mere words. Once we had the first device, it worked and had fluctuations. That electronics caused much trouble. It was very unsteady, but still produced good results. But at that time, electronics were poorer. Now it's all powerful. You see, it holds precisely. It holds perfectly in general. Alright, time count has started. You will turn it off and you will observe.
Should we have anything special in the first aid kit right away?
Yes, certainly. Liquid ammonia, something else, the first aid in case a person feels unwell and so on. And by all means there should be a journal or waiver from a person. I mean, everything should be legally executed as to a person's participation in the experiment. There is nothing terrible. Everyone who desires can measure any parameters. Let them come, measure radiation, the electronic field inside and so on. For sure, it won't be greater than from a smartphone near your ear during a phone call. But there is a closed space and an influence on the structures which are not registered by modern equipment, guys. So a risk still remains. Yet when people do parachute jumps, they risk. When people dive, they risk. But every time they sign a waiver, right? That is, if you agree to participate in the experiment, you are accountable for your own actions. And you understand perfectly well that something unexpected, non-objective may happen. Whoever does not want to should not participate. However, full responsibility for the experiment performance rests on the one who has agreed and taken part. Moreover, in principle, nothing should happen. There should be no electric shock, there should be no field structures, no radiation exposures, really nothing like that. But there is work with human consciousness, detachment from consciousness, there are some fluctuation intervals, and an influence on the essences. For example, activation of the right essence may cause certain, let's say, moods and emotions. The back essence can provoke images and so on. This is tested very well. Therefore, such things should be tested and dealt with. I mean, you should talk. A person must be forewarned. There should be no surprises for him or her. Every person must be treated extremely seriously and objectively.
Artery located everywhere.
Everywhere, on all the planes.
All the planes.
Both on top and below.
What about the 11th one?
At the bottom.
The pyramid base.
1, 2...
No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there are 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 at the bottom. We will write down and tell everything in detail. You had the 5th and the 6th. Between the pyramids. Right. When the program was active, we switched on some other Tori. In addition, the program completely cuts it off. Totally different conditions are created. In any case, you did well. This should be said without any praise, without anything. You do have potential. If you engage in extrasensory perception, well, it may be said based on the numbers. You can become one of the strongest psyches in the world. No, I'm saying this in general. When you grow old, this might help you earn the bread for the day. Who knows? People engage in these for some purposes. Watch the time.
Good. We have a polygraph examiner. Can we measure GCO, for example? I mean, galvanic skin response.
Afterwards.
And during the experiment?
Not when a person is tested at a running tory. The presence of electricity inside might create a reaction, so guys, don't play with this. But when the device is idle, you can do it. The device works by itself. You will see various deviations in different people. Again, everything depends on the operator.
We have tested the четверик, and when the right or left essence is activated, the dynamics is like that.
Well, I'll put it this way. That very четверик would work in a totally different way here. Such fluctuations when a person performs it here and when the difference may be recorded, that's also interesting. But the device itself is made, I will repeat again, of relevant materials and designed for working with tori, meaning with flat coils. It doesn't matter what you call them. That's how it is. First, you turn them off and then release the person.
One by one or all together? They all have to be set at 0 and then turned off.
Okay, now knock. There is such a bang on the coil.
It works.
It's powerful. And testing right away. It is difficult to actively run all the tori because they counteract each other. Amplification takes place. That's not enough. 3 seconds. The reaction is almost instantaneous, so if there is something, it would show 501, 502, 503, with the sensation of warmth. But here it is necessary to feel warmth in order not to disperse. And what about your subjective sensations?
I had a little headache, but once I sat down, it was gone. Now that I have come out, it's as if I miss half of my body. I was sitting up to this part.
Is it like being cut off?
Yes, as if cut off, taken away. And the headache has probably gone there itself. Well, nothing special. It seems I'm fine.
Fine, excellent. So, do we have only gentlemen? Maybe...
Should we select people by physiological or psychological features? I mean, a questionnaire. Physiological characteristics.
It is totally up to you. It will be as you do. I've told you about its principles and capabilities. We've shown its capabilities and so on. As for what should be done further and how to do it better, think for yourselves. It can be discussed. You should be as objective as possible. This is science, guys. This is science, first of all. No matter what someone might say, that it's charlatanry, pseudoscience, these are their problems. But we see something different.
Is it assumed there will be different results for the 4 types of personality?
Yes, by all means. This is also very interesting. For instance, psychologists rack their brains over this, and not just psychologists, but physicians and others. On average, one and the same medicine has different effect on the 4 types. Banal analgesic and anesthetics or narcosis will act differently. Whatever we use, any medicine will have a different effect on the 4 types of different people. Moreover, it is clear that there are individual variations, diseases or something else, but there exist 4 types. Say a person is sick, or let's take some psychological disorders and so on. Everything is identical. There are still 4 types, although there are certain deviations. If you approach this stereotypically, there will be no result, or the result result may be excellent on one person and 0 on 3 others. This doesn't mean that if you test 20 people of the first type and then there comes one person of the second type and nothing will work on him or her. For you to understand, modern science means observations from the outside. What you are trying here and physics are observations from within. The difference is huge. Hence, it is possible to perform objective and profound studies here. In principle, you can study psychology, extrasensory perception, whatever you like. If a person says he's a powerful psychic, guys, let's put him in, switch on a couple of tori and then test him. 0, goodbye, you are no psychic, just a dreamer. And this is totally serious. It should work. And it works first and foremost upon concentration. That is, investment of one's attention into a local point. When a person keeps his hands here, he focuses on what? On the warmth of his hands. He has put the power of attention between his hands, the power of attention, investment after such an accumulation. Let's take our purely theoretical physics and hypothetical assumption on stationary particles. Excitation of these particles causes molecules in any medium. And as we know, there is no pure vacuum. Why? Because the most vacuous vacuum is within this space, the space of the universe, where there are thousands of stationary particles in every micron. I emphasize micron. This is indeed an enormous number. And here is where discharges take place, meaning excitation produces effects. It excites everything you like. But again, thermodynamics fails to explain this phenomenon as the one we observed today. Why does the voltmeter react on electrodes in ordinary water? If it were some electrolyte or another chemical reaction that favors, for example, what could we do? We could take voltaic piles, replace the electrodes, put copper and zinc ones, pour an electrolyte for a chemical reaction, and simply, by such an impact, we could intensify or decrease voltage. There would be a poor indicator. The device would be much more sensitive, but it wouldn't show the entire essence. Why? Because after entering the structure, I mean the device itself, a person will come out and carry static voltage on himself. He will discharge this field and the chemical reaction will intensify, which will cause a voltage increase, so it won't be a pure indicator. A pure indicator is exactly as we have now. Well, let me also repeat, there would be a pure indicator on a magnetometer as well, when it arises in the air. In order to cause a visible phenomenon, we could ask and ray to cause a visible phenomenon instead of this. But I am saying right away, it would become visible only when concentrated up to a ball lightning. Yet it's impossible to control the behavior of such lightning, though it might be caused. You see, everything should be approached first and foremost from the perception of safety. If a person who is inside feels something wrong, he knocks, you take him out and he recovers his breath. Everything can happen. We are all humans, living mechanisms in this structure. Done? Okay, knock. We are chattering a little, distracting people, but I believe there should be a difference anyway.
Should a person inside be in an altered state of consciousness? Simply sitting?
Sitting with his eyes closed, simply sitting and observing. This observer has several positions, an observer from consciousness and an observer as personality. In the end, a physical body disappears and a person observes from another position. There may be visions, various fairy tales that are described. This is what may be observed here. But there is a scientific explanation of all that. Your goal and task is to select people with such manifestations and to describe everything just as it is, meaning to develop an algorithm. It should repeat itself on different people, then it will be really operational.
In the beginning, it became very frightening. Closed space.
Claustrophobia, a mild form.
Run urgently, but it passed so quickly, simply. And there was a state of such bliss, just like after the autogenic training or another technique.
Calmness.
Very pleasant. Yes, it was very pleasant. There was a feeling, like Sergei Vasilyevich said, a cap and a sensation of some field.
Security.
Well, some field.
This is indeed security. Why? Because here, let's say, the metal and the inner structure protect from external impacts. In addition to the phantom ductility of aluminium, here it is two-layered thick plus internal polymer is quite complex and also creates this ductility. So when a person is within space as an object moving through, well, we move. The globe rotates. We are in perpetual movement. The solar system rotates and the galaxy rotates. All this takes place at enormous speeds. While I was articulating the word speeds, we have flown a great many miles. Imagine what number every particle of our body has rushed through, being still a wave. And it has moved through every cell, through interaction with stationary particles. Hence, in the phantom state, we fly very fast. But once this ductility arises, the information ductility first of all, it distracts a great deal. It influences very strongly, incorrectly and unusually for the system itself. And the system, well, it gets confused. So a person gains a certain degree of freedom. Yet, with the proper selection, we can intensify its influence. In such a case, it will be the other way around. A person will feel very frightened, scared and unpleasant. But if the selection is right, the field will produce bliss, or it may switch on memories if the back essence is activated. Proper activation can produce variable combinations. The front essence may be activated. So there are different options. You can work with this, observe, record and question everything. Again, if everything repeats itself, this will prove everything is in place. Please take the metal items off and get inside. We will run the device again. Yes, to ensure objectivity. Now let's take the 8th and the 9th story. Close it, guys.
Which level do we set?
Now we'll find out if it blocks or stimulates. Presumably, DC should block while AC should stimulate.
But this will be a permanent exposure at the level of bum, 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 bum.
Now we will see. We have the right and the back essences. The 8th and the 9th story, it should, on the contrary, block.
Block?
It should block. I mean, it should give lightness, as if you have taken off a heavy rucksack. Well, let's see. Too little time, it's only a test. If it were at least 20 minutes, it would spin up. Turn it off.
What I stated was, at first it was sort of, there was a different kind of density and fear, up to some rage.
The right essence.
And then I was as if separated from all this. And that's all, and it felt good. However, a sensation still remained from behind. It was very, very...
Let me explain. We activated the right and the back essences, the 8th and the 9th tori. Hence there was a surge of fear. Then it spun up and activation was restrained. As for the heavy sensation from behind, it is normal. It would be easier further. Why? When a coil, that is a torus, is switched on, the initial activity intensifies sensations. I mean, you feel this work. Then the device starts blocking and gives a release. 5 minutes is insufficient, but it's a test mode, so it's enough. Here, the 8th and 9th tori have worked just as they should. We've detected this, and everything should be recorded in the register. Well, guys, if you have any questions for me, please ask.
Does the pyramid location relative to space have any influence?
Yes, it does. This one does not care, but the pyramid location does have an influence.
Does it make sense to record everything electronically with algorithms? Or is it better to record manually?
Guys, do as convenient for you, but objectively. Even if you question a person, if you, let's say, develop an algorithm of questions, it should be easy for him. He should not sit and write himself. When a person comes out, it is somewhat difficult for him to concentrate right away, isn't it? Who's been there knows it is somewhat difficult, guys. But he can answer questions based on his fresh sensations. Why? A little while will pass, and consciousness will interpret everything you perceived in a different way. Even Konstantin today or tomorrow will have doubts whether anything special has happened. You see? Your consciousness will also throw some nonsense into your head. Did you actually see what you saw? Did you feel what you felt? Now imagine those who will sit at the other side of the screen. They will start telling fairy tales about us. This is true. This is normal. It's a normal work of consciousness, and the system must resist such things. I mean, the system as a whole. As a system.
Should we record this on video? I mean that.
If you come across something interesting, by all means, do it. But generally speaking, our camera records everything. Therefore, people will always be under surveillance. When the camera doesn't work, the device doesn't operate, okay? I mean, the camera must record everything. But if you encounter something interesting, plus you can produce interesting videos. Why? If there are free cameras, if the girls have anything interesting, if there are interesting people, record and study this. Not to no purpose, but in order to produce a series of some videos. These could be very interesting and informative. Why not? Even from the first moments, from the first stages, somebody is interesting and somebody is not. But in the same time, for experts, this will be interesting anyway. Every step will be interesting. So if there is anything interesting, record it from time to time. And if you come across something, some algorithm, something extraordinary, record it without fail, for it is interesting. Video recording is proof.
Are special effects produced by the pyramid short-term? I mean the after effect.
Well, if we speak of what Constantine had, if you mean his emission, then yes, it is momentary. There is literally an upsurge. It cannot be for a long time.
Does the field remain for long after a person? I mean, a person has been sitting there and has probably left a trace after himself or not. Has he gone out and that's it? I mean, what should be the interval between operators?
Well, a second or a second and a half. Let me explain once again, guys. In order to understand how it works, you should apply a hypothesis or theoretical physics. I mean, the hypothesis which Zahar told us about on TV. You saw the 5-hour video, didn't you? Many people participated in that. It tells how the field moves and what moves in it. A person, as an object, has left this structure. It has instantly erased him. You see, long effects are possible here. But there, no, they are impossible. But disinfection should be carried out. As for bacilli, they don't care, you see. Hence, it is necessary to clean, carry out disinfection and ventilate. And a person should objectively evaluate the way he or she feels. I mean, during the device operation. This is first and foremost. Safety is the top priority, guys. No safety parameters may be violated. This is paramount. Everything else is secondary. Other questions for me, guys?
Are operators selected for a long time?
An operator in such understanding? Well, for me an operator is the one who's inside, while for others an operator is the one sitting at the control desk. The one who is sitting at the desk is in charge, but much depends on the one who's inside. It is possible to play, but I don't advise you to play, guys. Be objective, be honest, first of all with yourselves, otherwise you will lose your way. When a person is objective and honest, everything turns out as it should be. If you start playing with any effects, any prayers, meditations or something else, look for some special effects or provoke them, you can experience them. But all that is already for a fee, and the fee is not paid to us, unfortunately.
Objectivity according to the psychotype. I mean, can all psychotypes be objective or…
All of them. It's just that the activity of consciousness is different in everyone, and there is a slight difference in work. Let's suppose there is one and the same situation, one and the same pattern works, but everyone interprets it in a different way. The root is the same, but interpretation is somewhat different. So, to ensure objectivity, you should understand the essence, the root, while the color is individual for everyone.
Igor Mikhailovich, when you turned on DC there, as I understood…
Yes, there is DC and there is AC, two modes.
At different frequencies, right?
No, frequency should not be set. There is direct and alternating current. For normal operation of a torus, if we turn it on at some different frequency, it will work non-objectively. It's enough to turn on AC, let's say, with its 50 Hz, and this is more than enough. 50 oscillations are more than enough. It creates such a constant gap. You should understand it is pumping. That is, time is flowing, and if a person is sitting 5, 10, 15 or 20 minutes, the device begins to work more and more powerfully. This is continuous pumping which simply tears fields. Let's say it interferes in field structures. alters their motion and the like, or it begins to work as a suppressor, or vice versa, as an activator of certain, so to say, other field structures. To put it simply, if we turn on a radio and turn on something that breaks or jams the signals, we will first of all feel radio operation is disturbed. The radio starts crackling and then falls totally silent, right? A background noise has emerged, and in a while we hear the working frequency of a suppressing device itself. Well, something like that. Is it clear? More questions, guys?
You have mentioned the experiment with symbols, which they have carried out with the mirrors. I mean, the 5,000 people who worked with Kozyrev mirrors.
Right.
Hence, in their case, a person who transmitted and who received.
Yes, there were pairs, recipient and operator and so on. They worked on a banal snail. It's a sheet twisted in 1.5 turns on the size of this room, if not larger. A person is sitting inside. Yes, it disturbs operation, it excites, let's say, stationary particles, and such phenomena take place. A person sitting inside simply focuses attention on a symbol, and that's all. He doesn't transmit anything to anyone. At this time, he or she is focused on the symbol. This signal spreads all over, well, let's say, at a big distance. Let's not say too much in front of the camera. Those who tuned to perceive one of the certain number of symbols, since the picture predominates on the internet of, let's say, the system, it appears first, you see? Quite right, because it is put into the system itself, so it's a priority that it starts spreading to everyone who tuned to this wave. Well, by the principle of the present-day internet. After all, there is nothing new in the system. Everything is stereotypical. You search for slippers, and afterwards you see slippers there for a week once you open the internet. You see? And now even more so. If you call and ask about slippers, then everywhere you come, to anyone else's computer, you only take it in your hands having your phone beside, and slippers are offered to you immediately. You see? That's how the system works too. It starts offering you cookies or whatever they are called. So once a person has tuned to symbols, he or she knows the number of symbols and has seen them. The predominant symbol immediately appears. Here again, consciousness works. If an operator has worked poorly, has been unfocused, has been choosing between symbols, visualized the symbols fuzzily, and so it turns out poorly. Then Tori may have been selected incorrectly for excitation or something else, or on the contrary, they have totally suppressed the system. Nothing has been viewed. There will be, let's say, a natural background result. Whereas if everything is done correctly, the result will be very high, and this cannot be disputed. There is plenty of work to do, but on the other hand, it is interesting for those who are interested.
All that a person sees in the surrounding world, starting with their body, that like a shell alien to them from their birth, and ending with the light of the stars which died a long time ago, that is only a result of temporal interaction of phantom particles, ghost particles of this world, which appear for a short period of time as a light smoke and disappear immediately. All what oppresses a human being in this world, starting with compulsive thoughts, aggressive emotions, and ending with stereotyped desires of consumer and egoist, all this is a result of a person's choice in favor of septum field, the material smart system which exploits humanity stereotypically. Septum field just stimulates and provokes, but it is people who take actions based on their own choices. In order to change the world for the better, we just should start with ourselves, ignoring the system.
We should unite with other people on the basis of the primordial knowledge. We should not play up to the system which complicates everything, but have courage to change the situation radically. One should at least start with not multiplying evil and not strengthening the consumer system, but rather promoting spiritual and moral values by any means, day by day.
Change conditions and everything will change.
The primordial astrophysics gives an understanding of the fundamental principles, thanks to which it is possible to take science to a completely new level. and to a great extent to ease the life of human civilization, turning it in the direction of moral and spiritual development.
Today, the world community has faced a situation when everything is brought to the brink. Most people are afraid to change the system, not because they do not see its harmfulness, but because they do not see another solution. Fair world order, the support for their spiritual actions.
But the paradox is that their main support lies not in constant excitation of their own septon field, thoughts about endless suffering, but in the force which can control septon field. And that force is the spiritual nature of a person, because every transformation in this world depends on the power of inner potential and its application point.